Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This time I decided to put down alcohol markers for a while and go back to some digital painting. And this was done on my Lenovo IdeaPad on Fire Alpaca, one of my favorite ways to paint. Starting off here with the eyes of Miss Minnie. This is my mom's dog. And I thought this would be a cute picture to do, especially for the Halloween season because she's technically in a costume. And this was taken on Easter, so that's why she's a bunny. But yeah, I'm starting off with the eyes and the nose because those are the darkest values in all of the picture. And it's really useful to, one, have those things in place so that, you know, in terms of everything else, I have a good reference point. When it's like, okay, where do I put this? Okay, it's this far away from this eye and all that. But it's also good to judge values, again, comparing to those darkest values. So, especially when you're looking at a photo reference, sometimes colors tend to look pretty dull. And what I do when I'm painting in Fire Alpaca is I like to use the watercolor brush because it's a lot softer than, any other brush. And it blends really easily. I did minimal mix brush today, a little bit, but not a ton, and I was mostly just using it, the watercolor brush to blend. But basically, when you're color picking from pictures or photos, it can look pretty flat or pretty dull, and especially if you're using a brush with a lot of blending in the settings, it will mix with whatever's under it and sort of not dull it, but it will make it lighter if it's on a lighter color. It could dull it, it depends on what color you're laying on top of. But like if you're doing one shade of orange on top of another shade of orange, if the first layer is lighter, it'll lighten it, and if the second layer is darker, it'll darken it. So most of my color picking was pick the color and then adjust it on the side, which, because this is sped up so much, you can't really see that, but trust me, it's there. If you look really closely, you can see how I'm changing colors, especially for a very, like, this picture's not exactly monochrome, but she is like one color, right? So I think it's really important to get the subtle differences, especially because she's a lighter color dog. So actually what I'm doing here, you'll probably be like, oh my god, why is this so dark? I decided to start, generally speaking, with a darker color underneath, and that's basically like, you know, that dark pigment on like her lips and around her eyes. Those spots especially are going to be covered up by lighter hair, and I want to make sure I don't start too light because I don't really want to have to bring back too many darks, if that makes sense, because generally the light's catching what's on top. So I decided to go basically with the shades, the shadow colors first, and again, color picking and then adjusting after I pick the color to whatever seems appropriate, and then later I will layer on top. So I'm just taking basically section by section. Occasionally I'll go back around like the eyes and stuff with a much smaller brush, because the bigger the brush is, the like weirder the edges get. They're like sort of blurry, and I don't like that. So if you're wondering why sometimes I'm coloring a big area but I'm using a small brush and you're like, Emily, just make the brush bigger, that's why it gets really weird when I use a big brush. So sometimes I'll like go around the edge and then get a bigger brush for the inside, just because the edges I don't want super blurry and weird. But yeah, same kind of thing down here. My goal for the body is not make it nearly as detailed as the face, because the face is the focal point. So if I over render the body, or even like the ear, then her face isn't as attention drawing, if that makes sense. So just like sort of if you do like certain settings on a camera and it blurs whatever's farther away, kind of like that, that's what I'm trying to do. So now I'm starting to go in with the lighter colors. I'm trying not to go too light at first. Again, color picking, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's too light, or oh, that's not light enough. And I'm just changing it as I go. And for this one, I made sure that for a lot of the strands, I went back to like the end bits, especially because she's got a little bit of a messy mouth. She loves digging, and I'm assuming she was digging at some point. Not too long before this picture. And so she's always a little muddy, especially in her face and her paws. But that's fine. We love her for that. So I would take like the ends of certain hairs, especially around her muzzle, and make them a little darker. So the whole strand wasn't one color. But just really subtly, right, with the blending turn. I think it's turned all the way up for this watercolor brush. And then sometimes around those sharper edges, especially with the higher contrast between dark colors of the nose and then the fur, I went back with a smaller brush and put in back in some dark and then blended out some light. Here, I just had to do the collar, which took a while, but the metal was fun. This is like, I haven't even zoomed in 100% at all since starting to paint this. It's big. So I'm not trying to get super detailed. Here it's supposed to be hung up, like imagine if you like hang something on the wall, or in this case you zoom out on a screen, and you can see everything sort of comes together, but when you look up close it's like all blobs. That's what we're doing, because if you try to get too detailed, you kind of lose all the detail, like you can't really see it. So I was trying to use bigger brushes than like what I would if otherwise. I don't know. Generally speaking, that's what I would recommend, is to use bigger brushes. Don't go in detail brushes right away, especially for a larger painting. But yeah, we're working on the metal here. Metal's kind of fun to paint, all the shininess, and then the very dark bits is cool, is fun. Not much else to say about the collar other than it was kind of annoying. I split the collar into like 3 layers. One, I had to make sure it was under at least the like neck fur, and then it had to be over the chest fur, right? So the strap bits, the blue strap bits, are on 2 different layers, and then the metal with the tag is on its own layer. And I don't know if you can see that at all if you look carefully at the side, but that's how it is. So I think it turned out all right. I was just going back and forth, adding some lights, some darks, and then like I said, photos often feel a little flat, so I went back in with, I think, just a multiply layer and one of the colors I used on her fur, and I put it all over in spaces I thought needed more depth, and I used the mix brush to blend those out so they weren't too harsh. Then I was trying to figure out the background, like what do I want for the background? Gray didn't seem really nice. Like, I do a lot of gray backgrounds because they're nice and neutral, but she's quite warm. So I ended up, for this one, going with the gray, and then, well, I made my own background in sort of like a beigey, browny, yellowy color. And then I layered it with a gray. And I didn't like the gradient tool. It just looked too artificial and weird, so this, I don't think I recorded this, but I ended up just basically making my own gradient, but with the brush tool, right? With the brush and then the mix brush, and blending it all together. And I just thought it looked a bit more interesting. So here she is. Here's Miss Minnie in her bunny costume. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, go ahead, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, I do all sorts of mediums, from digital to alcohol markers to gouache to acrylic gouache, canvas sometimes, paper sometimes. hopefully make some clay stuff soon, but I don't know how much of that will be successful, so I'm not sure if it'll be in a video, but yeah, all kinds of stuff on this channel, so go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in any of that. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.